Hello, we're back for the non-dual lectionary for Palm Sunday in Year C, the beginning of Holy Week. And so I know probably everybody's familiar with that, but I'm going to talk about the story in the context of Holy Week. We've got a couple of choices for the gospel lesson from the lectionary, and I'm going to use the uh, the traditional Palm Sunday story from Luke. But of course, that leads us eventually into Maundy Thursday, into Good Friday, and Jesus' crucifixion, and then Saturday, and then the resurrection, Easter on Sunday. Um, but first, we'll do those each of those in videos to follow. But first, for today, Palm Sunday, and our lesson is from Luke chapter 19, verses 28 to 40. After he had said this, he went on ahead, going up to Jerusalem. When he had come near Bethphage and Bethany, at the place called the Mount of Olives, he sent two of the disciples, saying, "Go into the village ahead of you, and as you enter it, you will find tied there a colt that has never been ridden. Untie it and bring it here. If anyone asks you, 'Why are you untying it?' just say this, 'The Lord needs it.'" So those who were sent departed and found it as he had told them. As they were untying the colt, its owners asked them, "Why are you untying the colt?" They said, "The Lord needs it." Then they brought it to Jesus, and after throwing their cloaks on the colt, they set Jesus on it. As he rode along, people kept spreading their cloaks on the road. Now, as he was approaching the path down from the Mount of Olives, the whole multitude of the disciples began to praise God joyfully with a loud voice for all the deeds of power that they had seen, saying, "Blessed is the King who comes in the name of the Lord. Peace in heaven and glory in the highest heaven." Some of the Pharisees in the crowd said to him, "Teacher, order your disciples to stop." He answered, "I tell you, if these were silent, the stones would shout out." So again, there's a lot we could talk about here. The beginning has some prophecy and there's some echoes from Old Testament things, but I'm going to focus on two things. And the first, again, is um, directly in the context of the whole Holy Week story. And um, there's an obvious kind of Palm Sunday here, and then Maundy Thursday into the crucifixion. There's a mythological telling of a death of some kind, right? And then a resurrection of some kind. Um, Adyashanti in particular has a pretty nuanced explanation of this. I think that about the crucifixion being really like a mythological telling of the death of self. And he even draws a distinction between transfiguration being sort of the death of ego and the unity of self and divine, after the baptism being sort of the awakening experience, and then again the crucifixion at the end here being really the full death of self. Um, yeah, but not necessarily the end of a life. But in any event, I don't have that experience myself that I can really speak to that strongly. But I do think we can talk about the crucifixion and resurrection story as, there are lots of deaths along the spiritual path, whether it's death of self, death of ego, but really significant, felt as deaths. Or I mean, it, it it doesn't feel like a metaphor, right? Felt as a significant loss with nothing seeming to be on the other side. And we'll get to that again. But for today, we've got the Palm Sunday start, right? Um, and and that's where I think, along uh, along what anybody who's either practicing or has had some spiritual experience there can come with it a sense of fulfillment. Here they talk about the deeds of power, right, that the disciples saw. So and power has a weird connotation nowadays, but yeah, a sense of power, fulfillment, sense of joy, sense of, oh, I've really got something here, and this has really transformed my life, and it's really great. And there can be a sense of like arrival and a sense of okay, all I need to kind of do is fine tune this, and then everything's that's the end of it, right? Um, And so there's a way of reading Palm Sunday as, again, like the mythological, the Jesus's life can be a mythological telling of the spiritual path, right? That's one of the things I think we see pretty strongly in the gospel stories. And here I think we've got just a great example of that, right? he's done these great deeds. He's shown this kind of fulfillment. The people around are noticing, blessed is the king. He comes in the name of the Lord. And there's a sense of like, we've arrived, everything's great now. And again, just fine tuning from here, right? There's no big transformations that need to happen anymore. No more deaths to come. And that can often, I mean, forget can often, it almost has to precede uh, the next death, right? Um, the next kind of death experience, the next great transformation, which and transformation doesn't, in my experience, feel good, right? At the onset, at least. It's not a sense of, oh, here comes something new, great. It's always, uh-oh, I'm losing what I thought I had. But this is what can come before, right? The sense of, oh, we're there. So Palm Sunday, in that context, here we are. And then somewhat relatedly, I do want to talk about the last part here. Teacher, order your disciples to stop. And he says, I tell you, if these were silent, the stones would shout out. Maybe not so related, but but that's one that just kind of jumps out, right? And the traditional telling would be something like, oh, this is a statement to God's glory, right? Um, or something like that. But I think there's a more direct teaching that we can take from that, which is something like, um, I mean, in the psychological version, it would be called repression, right? There's in a Taoist sense, right, of like living by your true nature, um, living as an expression of who you truly are right now, right? And in this sense, it can be the people praising and joyfully and singing out, and um, and it can also be all sorts of other manifestations, right? It can take almost any form depending on the context, depending on the person. But living as your true nature can be, it doesn't have to be big. It can be small, but it can be big. It can be bold. It can be disruptive, but it need not be either. But the point is living by true nature, right? Living as a pure expression of who you really are in this moment. Um, and ordering that to stop, again, in the psychological sense, we called it repression, right? It will come out another way. That's the kind of the armchair psychology of it. But I think there's a statement here that it isn't just psychology. It's part of that spiritual um, true nature, that Taoist. This is the true Tao right now. And so Jesus is responding, hey, this is a pure expression right now. This is true nature. This is the universe expressing itself. And if we try to shut that down, it's not going to work. It's going to come out no matter what. So just a recognition here. And if we do try to blend the two together, right? That like, yeah, it's not fake, the sense of arrival, the sense of fulfillment, the sense of power. Um, and celebrate that, live into it in the moment when it arrives. Live right through it because that's what's here now. There's no sense in yeah, life is suffering, the first noble truth, right? Or however you want to translate that one. And so this will not last. But when it's here, live it out because there can be that sense, I think, when we adopt those as philosophies, like the first noble truth that like, oh, when something good is here, we always have to bring in mentally, right, that it won't last. And so therefore, uh, you know, kind of treat it suspiciously. And I think the message here is no, it's not going to last. And the rest of the Holy Week story will show us that directly. But while it's here, uh, live it out, or or and if you don't live it out, it's not going to work anyway, because that is what is. And so there's no resisting, there's no stopping what is.